Unlock inner peace, overcome negative thoughts with Stoicism. It was 2:17 in the morning. I was sitting on the kitchen floor with the lights off, phone screen blazing like a tiny interrogation lamp, when the thought barged in: if I vanished tonight, no one would notice until the rent went unpaid. That line had knocked on my door before, but this time it brought friends, panic, shame, the whole toxic crew. My heartbeat pounded so hard I could feel it in my eye sockets. I muttered under my breath, "Okay, this is either rock bottom or the start of a tunnel with no end." Spoiler, it was both. 2 weeks later, still hungover from another sleepless night, I was wedged into a subway seat, flipping through Marcus Aurelius. One sentence slapped me awake. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. No sugarcoating, no manifest it. Just, you can't stop the storm, but you can open an umbrella." That was my first taste of Stoicism, bitter like black coffee, and exactly what I needed. If you've ever felt trapped in your own mental traffic, ruminating, catastrophizing, doom-scrolling at 3 a.m., this video is the guide I wish I'd had on that kitchen floor. No fluff, no guru glow. Just the tools that actually turn the volume down on mental noise. Section 1. What Stoicism is not. Let's clear the air. Stoicism isn't the movie cliché of the stiff upper lip. It's not pretending you're fine while your inner world burns. And it's definitely not monk mode detachment, where you float above life, speaking in riddles and feeling nothing. Real Stoicism is mental judo. You don't fight against life's weight, you redirect it. The goal isn't to kill emotion, it's to stop being held hostage by it. Picture the difference between a dam and a river. A dam blocks the flow until it cracks under pressure. A river moves with the current, adjusts to rocks, bends, and still keeps going. Stoicism teaches you to be the river. This isn't about becoming cold or robotic. It's about learning how to carry yourself with calm strength no matter what storm hits. When your coworker cuts you off, when traffic traps you, when your kid throws a tantrum, you don't shut down. You shift, you feel, but you don't drown. And that's the first mindset shift. Stoicism doesn't strip away your humanity, it sharpens it. It helps you stop wasting energy on what you can't control, so you can invest fully in what you can. Section 2. The dichotomy of control. Grab any scrap of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write the things you can control: your effort, your choices, your words, your next move. On the right side, write everything else: the weather, the economy, other people's opinions, the past. When I did this the first time, my left column had 7 items. The right side, 42. Just seeing it on paper felt like I had been lugging 2 heavy suitcases and finally set one down. For the first time, my shoulders actually dropped. From that day forward, whenever I felt the spiral coming, panic, frustration, resentment, I looked at the right column and asked myself, is this trying to live in my head rent-free? If the answer was yes, I whispered one word: evict. It sounds simple, almost childish. But here's the truth. Most of your suffering comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. The Stoics knew this thousands of years ago. And once you start practicing it, you begin to notice something remarkable. Your energy shifts. You stop burning fuel on storms you'll never stop, and you start investing in the only thing that was ever yours: your response. This exercise alone can be life-changing, but it gets even more powerful when you combine it with the next tool: reframing the stories you tell yourself. And that's where we're heading next. Section 3. Cognitive restructuring, Stoic style. The Stoics invented a mental skill that modern psychology now calls cognitive behavioral therapy. Their version boiled down to this: it's not the thing that upsets you, it's the story you tell yourself about the thing. Test it out the next time you're on the road. Someone cuts you off. Instantly, your brain shouts, "That driver disrespected me." Anger floods in. But if you rewrite the headline, everything changes. Instead, say, "Traffic happened. My brain fired off a survival alarm. End of story." Same facts, less drama. I had to practice this with my mom's voicemails. She's a master of guilt trips. Every message used to derail my whole day. But when I started labeling them, the spell broke. I'd listen and say to myself, "Mom's using worry language." Then I'd move on. Relationship intact. Afternoon saved. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing a cleaner story. The Stoics believed events are neutral until you color them with meaning. By catching that split-second gap between the event and your reaction, you reclaim control. And here's the best part. Once you realize you can rewrite one story, you start noticing how many other stories are waiting for an edit. Next, I'll show you a practice that sharpens this skill every single night, one page at a time. Section 4. Daily Reflection, Journaling. Every night I sit down with a simple note on my phone titled Today's Echo. Just 3 questions, no more than 5 sentences each. 1. What did I control today? 2. Where did I hand my mood to something external? 3. What's the smallest, next right thing tomorrow? The magic isn't the writing itself. It's the pause before the writing, the moment you stop, breathe, and replay your day. That pause is like a gym for your brain. Tiny reps that build strength you don't notice until it matters. After 40 days of this habit, I noticed something shocking. The gap between my reaction and my response had stretched. 1 second became 5. That might not sound impressive, but think about it. 1 second is the difference between snapping at your kid and choosing patience. 5 seconds is the difference between sending a reckless text and putting your phone down. This is what journaling gives you. Not a diary of feelings, but a training ground for wisdom. It turns your everyday frustrations into lessons, so when the big storms come, you're already stronger. And speaking of storms, what if you could prepare for them before they even arrive? That's the next Stoic drill, rehearsing the worst so you can handle the real thing. Section 5. Premeditatio malorum, negative visualization. The Stoics had a practice with a heavy Latin name, premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. In plain English, imagine the worst before it happens, not to torture yourself, but to soften the blow if it ever comes. Each morning, I spend 30 seconds picturing a loss. Maybe my health fails. Maybe the Wi-Fi cuts out mid-presentation. Maybe a friend doesn't call back. Sounds grim, right? But here's the twist. Once the worst-case scenario is loaded in my mind, the real day feels lighter. I remember before a big job interview, I rehearsed the absolute disaster version. Sweaty palms, stuttering, forgetting my own name. By the time I walked into the actual interview, I thought, "Oh, this is easy. This isn't the nightmare. This is the deluxe version." And guess what? I got the job. Negative visualization doesn't make you pessimistic. It makes you resilient. You stop expecting a perfect day and start welcoming an ordinary one. And when the bad days do arrive, you meet them like an old acquaintance, not a total stranger. This practice trains your mind to treat setbacks as bumps, not cliffs. And once you learn that, you can do something even more powerful. Reframe the emotions themselves. That's where we're heading next. Section 6. Reframing emotions. Your brain is a meaning-making machine. Same physical sensation, but the label you slap on it decides everything. Call it anxiety, and you want to hide. Call it excitement, and suddenly you're ready to rise. I learned this mid-presentation once. My heart was racing, hands clammy, throat tight. For years I would have told myself, I'm choking, I can't do this. But that day, I tried a Stoic twist. In the restroom, I whispered out loud, this is my body getting me ready to perform. Same heartbeat, new soundtrack. I walked back in and delivered the talk better than I ever had. Here's the truth. Emotions are neutral signals until you write the script. Fear is just energy. Anger is just energy. The question is, do you funnel it into panic or into purpose? Stoicism doesn't erase your feelings. It reminds you that the story you attach to them is optional. You can trade "I'm falling apart" for "I'm gearing up." You can shift from victim to participant with one new frame. And once you see this clearly, you realize emotions aren't the enemy. Mislabeling them is. That's why the next Stoic tool is about catching those emotions in real time, in tiny moments throughout the day before they ever take over. Section 7. Micro-mindfulness throughout the day. Most people think mindfulness means 20 minutes on a cushion, eyes closed, incense burning, but the Stoic version is grab and go. It's about weaving small resets into your day, the way you'd sip water instead of waiting until you're dehydrated. Here are 3 of my go-to drills. Breath tag, inhale with the word here, exhale with the word now, 10 breaths. And your mind stops time traveling. Finger press. Tap your thumb to each finger one at a time while naming 4 things you can see. It grounds you in the room instantly. Doorway reset. Every time you walk through a door, pause for 2 slow exhales. It's a ritual of leaving one state behind and entering the next with calm. When I first tried the doorway reset at the office kitchenette, I failed almost every time. Week 2, I nailed it twice. By week 3, it had become automatic. The effect? My 3 p.m. crash turned into a mild speed bump instead of a wall. These micro moments don't sound heroic, but they stack. You're training your nervous system in the background, like software updates that run while you work. And the payoff multiplies when you add one more ingredient, other people, which brings us to the surprising role of community in Stoicism. Section 8. The community factor. On paper, Stoicism looks like a solo sport, a man against his own mind. But the truth is, even the strongest Stoics knew they needed others. We're wired for connection, and ignoring that fact just makes the weight heavier. I found this out when I joined a tiny online group, 6 strangers scattered across the globe, all curious about living with more calm. Every Friday we posted 2 things, 1 win, 1 obstacle. No long lectures, no fixing each other's problems, just mirrors, just reminders that you weren't alone in the fight. And something unexpected happened. On Thursdays, when I felt tempted to let my routines slide, I thought of that group. Someone in Finland was going to read my update. Someone in Canada would nod at my progress. That accountability pulled me back on track. The Stoics didn't say, go it alone. They said, choose your company wisely. One toxic circle can undo months of growth. One solid ally can multiply it. So if you don't have a group yet, start one. Send a text to a friend, post online, be the first domino. Because sometimes the strength you need doesn't come from standing taller, it comes from standing together. And still, even with allies, we stumble. That's why the next section is crucial, recognizing the common fail and fix moments every Stoic learner faces. Section 9. Common fail and fix moments. Every path has pitfalls. With Stoicism, The mistakes usually come in three flavors, and knowing them ahead of time saves you months of frustration. Mistake 1. The Stoic buffet. Trying every tool at once. You meditate, journal, visualize, reframe, reset, then burn out in a week. The fix? Pick one exercise. Do it for 30 days. Let it sink in before adding another. Depth beats variety. Mistake 2. Judging the judging. You finally learn to notice negative thoughts, and then you scold yourself for having them. Double trouble. Remember, the Stoics didn't say banish thoughts. They said, don't get dragged behind them. Clouds pass. Don't yell at clouds. Mistake 13.3. Weaponizing Stoicism on others. This one's sneaky. You read Marcus Aurelius, feel wise, and then mid-argument you tell your partner, that's outside your control, babe. Bad move. Stoicism is for self-mastery, not scoring points. Apply inward first, share by example later. The point isn't to be perfect. The point is to notice, adjust, and keep moving. Fall down, stand up. Fall again, stand again. That rhythm is the practice. And speaking of practice, if any of these tools are landing for you, now's the perfect moment to test your own resolve. Let me invite you to a quick challenge. If any of this is clicking with you, I want you to pause for just 10 seconds and commit. Which tool will you test first? Will it be the two lists, what you can and can't control, the nightly today's echo journaling, or the simple doorway reset? Drop your choice in the comments right now. 1, 2, or 3. I read every single comment, and I'll reply with a small tweak you can try immediately. This isn't just a video, it's a training ground. Your practice starts the moment you type, and if you're finding value so far, consider subscribing. That way, you'll have a steady stream of Stoic tools ready each week, like a gym membership for your mind. All right, back to the work. Because the best way to see Stoicism in action is to track real change over time. Let me take you inside my own 60-day transformation. Section 10. My 60-day before and after. 2 months after that night on the kitchen floor, the intrusive thoughts still showed up, but they arrived like junk mail instead of armed intruders. I could glance at them, shrug, and toss them in the recycle bin of my mind. The biggest shift wasn't the absence of negative thoughts, it was the presence of choice. Before, every thought felt like a command. Now, each one felt like an envelope. I could open it, or I could drop it in the trash. That freedom alone was worth the effort. There was one piece of hard evidence that hit me even harder: my weekly screen time report, down from 7.4 hours a day to 4.1. Not because I downloaded a productivity app, but because I no longer needed to escape my own brain. Silence felt safe again. That's what Stoicism gave me in 60 days. Not perfection, but peace. Not the end of storms, but the discovery that I could stand in the rain without drowning. And how do you know if it's working for you? The signs aren't flashy, they're quiet, subtle, but once you notice them, you'll realize just how far you've come. Section 11. How to know it's working. So, how do you know Stoicism is actually taking root? The signs aren't dramatic. You won't suddenly levitate or feel like a monk on a mountaintop. The clues are quieter, like small ripples that reveal a deeper current. Clue number 1. You argue with strangers on the internet less. The bait is still there, but the hook doesn't sink in the same way. You scroll, you shrug, you move on. Clue number 2. You remember what page of the book you were on. Your mind isn't sprinting in 1,000 directions, so your attention holds steady. Clue number 3. You laugh at inconveniences you used to rage at. The spilled coffee, the long checkout line, the sarcastic comment from a coworker. Suddenly, they're just blips instead of battles. None of these will trend on Instagram, but they are receipts of inner peace, proof that the muscles you've been training quietly in the background are starting to show up in real life. And once you notice these changes, the next question is obvious: how do you keep them? That's where the final guardrails come in. Section 12. Keeping the gains. Here's the hard truth. Peace isn't a finish line. It's a gym. Skip too many workouts, and the muscles fade. That's why the Stoics treated philosophy not as a one-time revelation, but as a lifelong practice. For me, 2 guardrails keep the progress alive. Monthly reset day. On the first Sunday of every month, I revisit my 2 lists. What can I control? What can't I? I archive old journal entries and clear mental clutter the same way I clear out my inbox. Seasonal retreat. Once every 3 months, I spend a Saturday offline. No screens, no noise, just 1 notebook and 1 park bench. The boredom feels brutal at first, but that emptiness is actually the reset button, like an oil change for the soul. These rituals aren't glamorous. Nobody applauds you for sitting on a park bench with no phone, but that's the point. The benefits show up later, when the chaos comes and you realize your calm still holds. And that brings us to the final piece, the invitation. Because this isn't just theory, it's a challenge waiting for you to step into. The invitation. On that subway car, Marcus Aurelius handed me an umbrella and said, "Use it. The storm hasn't moved, it's still messy, still loud, but now I can choose whether I stand drenched or walk in the shade." And today, I'm handing that umbrella to you. Here's your challenge. Pick 1 practice, just 1. Try it for 7 days. Maybe it's the 2 lists. Maybe it's today's echo journaling. Maybe it's the doorway reset. Don't chase all of them. Test 1, live it, and see what changes. If it helps, come back and tell me. If it doesn't, tell me that too. We'll tweak it together. Either way, you're not walking this path alone. And if you ever find yourself back on the kitchen floor at 2 a.m., remember this. The mind is like a sketchy neighborhood at night. Don't wander there unarmed. Stoicism is the streetlight. It doesn't remove the shadows, but it makes the path visible. And that light, it's always on. Your peace is not a distant dream. It's a discipline. And the sooner you start training, the sooner you'll realize you already carry the strength you've been searching for.